Well, I'm dragging out the old soapbox today to address one of the subjects I'm sure everyone has an opinion on. Marvel cinematic villains and why some of them are still just hanging around out there in the fringes, just waiting to be used again. Now, I'm not really counting characters that had on-screen deaths. Yeah, it's comics and all that, so really no character is off the table. But let's just stick with characters that stand a workable chance of being brought back into the MCU at large. And so we begin with the top 10 villains that Marvel needs to bring back to the big screen. Number 10. AIM. In Iron Man 3, Aldrich Killian created AIM, Advanced Idea Mechanics, as his think tank that he used to create Extremis. After his defeat, they sort of vanished out of existence. They would be made to order to replace Hydra, which has been limping along in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. After revitalizing them on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they should make a return to the big screen in a big way. It would be the perfect way to finally introduce MODOK to the MCU. Of course, it's not a stretch for Killian to come back since they had to kill him twice in the movie, but no thanks. I'm good. Number 9. Loki. This one's a no-brainer, with Loki already poised to return in Thor Ragnarok, but recent rumors suggest that Tom Hiddleston is at the end of his contract with Marvel, and with the role of 007 waiting in the wings, it may be time to see Loki off into that good night. After appearing in 4 films, one would think he might overstay his welcome, but it's generally agreed upon that he's Marvel's best screen villain thus far. With the great job that he's done, opportunities should be made to keep Tom around for a few more appearances in the MCU. Number 8. Ultron. Ultron already got his due, and it was a great performance by James Spader, but I really wasn't totally satisfied with Age of Ultron. It seemed to spiral off into a vanity project for Whedon to some extent. I think there's a lot more that you can do with Ultron that's more in line with his comic counterpart, such as the creation of Jocasta. Now, with Ant-Man and the Wasp firmly established in the MCU, Ultron could be a fitting villain for them. He's the only villain on the list that's legitimately dead, but being a computer program, he could be easily brought back. Right, Dr. Pym? Number 7. Justin Hammer. At the end of Iron Man 2, there seemed to be an obvious inclination to bring Hammer back for Iron Man 3. After Favreau left, let's just say Shane Black went a different direction. Despite not really being an iconic representation of the comic version, which, let's face it, was generally Peter Cushing as a millionaire, Sam Rockwell imbued his version with a manic humor that made him Tony Stark's dark opposite. Should there be an Iron Man 4, his character really should be revisited. Number 6. Klaue. Ulysses Klaue was first introduced in Age of Ultron, played wonderfully by Andy Serkis. He loses his arm to Ultron, setting up his heel turn. There's still no official word at this time as to Serkis' involvement in the upcoming Black Panther film. One would expect his involvement given that Klaue is traditionally regarded as the Panther's arch-enemy. But with Civil War pretty much mangling his ties to T'Challa by having his father T'Chaka die from Zemo's machinations, there's no real guarantee that Klaue will cross paths with Black Panther in the film, if at all, and that would be a travesty. Number 5. The Mandarin. The real Mandarin. After the famous twist regarding the Mandarin in Iron Man 3 cooled the ardor of many a fan, Marvel copped a mulligan with the short All Hail the King, promising that the real Mandarin did indeed exist and that the real Ten Rings organization was still firmly under his control. With the Iron Man films increasingly distancing themselves from the original concept of the Ten Rings, it would be a great return to form to see them return with the authentic Mandarin at their head. It's doubtful Marvel would be going back to that well, but Marvel could use a heavy hitter in the MCU with the fall of Hydra. And be honest, who wouldn't want to see Tony go after the Mandarin to save Trevor? Number 4. Baron Zemo. The only thing preventing me from giving Civil War 5 stars was that, despite a great performance by Daniel Bruhl, they really didn't make Zemo at all comparable to his comic counterpart. I won't hold it against them, though, if they bring him back in a sequel in all his pink sock-masked Master of Evil leading glory. Seeing as how he survived Civil War, at least it's not out of the realm of possibility. Number 3. The Abomination. After 3 films with the Hulk, he still hasn't fought a foe that could match him pound for pound in strength. Hulk needs to come up against one of his own villains at the very least if they still intend to keep him from having another solo film. Tim Roth gave a good performance as Blonsky, but frankly, Abomination really only needs some good CGI and voice modulation to be successful. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has at least made reference to Blonsky on a number of occasions, so he's still alive and well, somewhere in cryo-freeze. And if for no other reason, bring him back to fix up his appearance to a more comic-accurate look. Number 2. The Leader. Even worse than Abomination's treatment is the Leader, who received an origin in The Incredible Hulk when we see Banner's blood dripping on his cranium, leading to his growing brain. Tim Blake Nelson made for an enjoyably bizarre Samuel Stearns, and it would be fun to see what he could do with the leader. One of the big problems is Marvel/Disney is still refusing to play ball with Universal, who would get a cut of the profits should they make a solo Hulk film. Supposedly too many Hulk elements in a single Marvel film, and Universal would cry foul. So let's hope Disney/Marvel is willing to loosen up those purse strings and let more Hulk characters thrive in the MCU. And the number one villain Marvel needs to return to the big screen? The Red Skull. Obviously, the number one on the list has to be one Johann Schmidt, the Red Skull. When last seen, he was beamed up to space via Tesseract at the end of Captain America: First Avenger. Where did he go? Dimension X? Is he in Krang's collection alongside the Shredder? The real-life answer seems to be Hugo Weaving's reluctance to return to the role when he publicly mentioned how he thought Marvel wouldn't hold him to his multi-film contract because his heart wasn't in it. Come on, Hugo, man up and fulfill your contract. The Red Skull is too great a villain to get shipped out after only one movie. But frankly, they don't even really need Hugo. Pretty much anybody can wear the prosthetic and speak with a German accent. And Marvel hasn't been precious about keeping around actors for secondary characters. So there must be a reason they're holding back on Schmidt's return. One really has to question why when you consider the considerable lack of heavy-hitting villains in the MCU. I don't think the Red Skull would jibe well with the Russo brothers in charge of the Captain America films, as they give them more of an espionage vibe rather than the larger-than-life comics vibe that's needed for the character. If that's the case, it's a sad fate for one of Cap's, and indeed Marvel's, greatest baddies. Well, that's my list. Any others you think should be added? Any on the list that you don't want to see return? And who's number one on your list? Let me know in the comments. This is Johnnie Torch, stepping down from my soapbox and reminding you, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.